Hello, this is Richard Marca,
And hello, this is Victoria Leyva.
and this is the second mobile app upgrade video for the fourth app, the to-do list app.
So, the first feature that we implemented was the add categories for to-do items.
The second item that we added was a way to edit the to-do list items so you can either remove the features or add a name to the features.
And the third feature that we implemented was the add due date for to-do items. So, for our first feature, we have add categories for to-do items. And this allows users to assign categories such as work, personal, or study to task. Users can filter tasks by category using a drop-down button. This helps with task or organizations by grouping tasks based on their context. The default category is work if no specific category is chosen. And it improves focus by filtering tasks relevant to specific categories.
The second upgrade we did was the edit list for to-do items. It adds a button that allows for the insertion of new items for the list. It also adds a button that allows for the deletion of items in the list. For adding an item, it also has the ability to cancel adding an item. And all new items have a default of a normal priority, which is all done in the keys.dart file.
So for our third feature, we have the due date for to-do items. And this adds a due date picker for assigning deadlines to tasks. And it displays the selected date in the month, the day of the month, and the year format. It highlights overdue tasks in red for better deadline tracking, and it provides a snack bar warning if a task is needed without selecting a due date. Finally, it helps users prioritize tasks based on deadlines and track overdue items.
And here is a demonstration of our app. You can notice how these two apps are beyond the due date, so we can actually delete them with the delete function that was added. So if we want to add something under work, notice how the only thing we have is under the study category, but if I want to add a quiz, let's just say I decide to add a task first. There's the cancel option, so I could cancel it. But if I want to add a task, let's just say quiz, and I press the add button, we have the scaffold pop up. Please select a due date before adding a new item. So let's do it for tomorrow. Now add a task, quiz, and there we go. It has been added. And if I go back to all, the order is the same. If I want to add personal for the 15th, add task. Let's do what we all do on a Tuesday, chapel. And everything is in alphabetical order. So if I want to say it's tomorrow and I did the quiz. I could click this box here and now it's crossed out, the quiz. Or if I have the explore other courses, that's crossed out. Or chapel, I can have that crossed out. But let's just say I'm done with it. I have no more quizzes on this day. It's the only quiz I don't have to worry about anymore. I can get rid of it. Check off if you haven't checked open. You can check that off. And by the end of the week, let's just say it becomes next Sunday, and I know I'm going to have another chapel. You can delete that. Pick a due date. So not for this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. I could add the new chapel. And there's a new chapel.
For our first feature, we have the category. When we take a look at the to-do class, this is where we define the structure of our task, and I've added a new property called category. Next, we have a variable called selected category in the private key state class, which stores the category the user has picked. And right now it starts with all, meaning it will show all tasks. This way, the app can filter tasks based on the selected category. Looking at the list to do filter to dos, this checks if all is chosen. And if it is, we display all tasks. And if a specific category is chosen, like for example, work, it shows only tasks that belong to that category. This makes it easier to focus on what you need to do. Looking at the build method, I've added a drop down button widget. Yeah. And this is mainly for users to pick their category. And it shows options like all, work, personal, and study. And so when you select a category from this dropdown, the app updates the tasks shown based on your choice. It's a simple way to switch between different types of tasks quickly. Overall, these features allow users to filter tasks by category, such as work, personal, and study, enhancing task organization and management within the app.
For the edit to-do list, you go up to the add to-do. You will see that there is some new alert dialogues. You have the add item, enter add item, add and cancel. So if you go here, I click the add task, there's the add, there's the cancel, there's enter item text, add item. And if we press cancel, it pops it. If we add it, adds it, as long as we have the date. We go down to the build method. You could see that there is an elevated button called add task, which is this one. And if we go back to the add to do, it shows that it is reliant on the due date, judging by if I add an item, it won't let me until a due date's added before.
For our last feature, we have the due date for to-do item. First, in the to-do class, I added a new property called due date. Same thing I did for the category. Then I declare a variable called new task due date in the private class key state. And this variable is of type date time question mark, which means it can either hold a date or be null if no date is selected. We use this variable to store the date that the user picks when creating a new task. Next, we created a method called selected dates. This method is responsible for showing a date picker when the user wants to choose a due date. We use the show date picker function, which provides a nice interface for users to select the date. And when demonstrating this in the emulator, we can select a date and we click OK. We go ahead and add a new task. We do quiz, for example. We click add. We can see that we now have the due date next to the item. When we call the show date picker and pass it to the current context and initial date, like for example, today's date, and a range of validates from the year of 2020 to 2030. And if the user selects a date, we update the new task due date variable with the chosen date. In our add to do method, when the user decides to add a new task, we need to check if they have selected a due date. So we need to check if new task due date is not null, meaning the user has picked a date. And if a due date is selected, we create a new to-do object that includes the task details and the selected due date. If no date is selected, we show a snack bar message to remind the user to pick a due date before adding the task. Or it has text, please select a due date before adding the task. This is where the user needs to provide the due date before providing a task name. So when displaying the list of tasks, we iterate through our filter list of to-dos called the filter to-dos. For each task, we create a checkable to-do item, passing along the task details, including the due date, and we also determine if the task is overdue based on its due date and today's date. If the due date has passed, the task will be marked as overdue. Now we will be moving on to the checkable to-do item file. So first, to manage due dates within each task, we have updated the checkable to-do item class to include a due date property. We also added a logic to determine if a task is overdue, and a task is considered overdue if its due date is in the past. In the UI, we want to show the due date in a user-friendly format. So we format the date as the month and the day of the month and the year, and change text color to red if the task is overdue. This way, users can quickly see which tasks need their attention. We then added a task style to the checkable to-do item to change how the task appears based on whether the task is marked as done or overdue. This makes it easy for users to see the status of their task at a glance. So if a task is completed, we apply a line through decoration to the text. So this visually indicates that the task has been finished. If a task is overdue, we change the text color to red, and this alerts the users that the task is late. So if the task is not overdue, the text remains black. Overall, this feature enables users to select due dates for tasks with overdue tasks highlighted in red, ensuring that important deadlines are clearly visible and easily managed. So when we put it into the emulator and we pick a date before, yeah, let's say the 11th, and we add a task, we can see that it's marked as red, showing that this task has been overdue.
That is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Yes, thank you for watching.